Good evening, I'm Courtney Jerome. Welcome to Ask the Specialist. Tonight, we ask the small business specialists right here on CMU Public Television. Thank you for joining us tonight on CMU Public Television. We welcome you to call in, tweet in, or Facebook us your questions around the topic of small businesses on Ask the Small Business Specialist tonight. I'd like to introduce to you our two guests who are here to answer any questions on small businesses or entrepreneurship that you might have. Thank you both so much for being here. We're very glad to have you. Okay, first we have Ragnar Avery. Now you are with the Isabella Bank Institute for Entrepreneurship.
Yes, that's correct.
Can you please tell us a little bit about your area?
Yeah, so my role with the Institute is as the mentor in residence. And I'm acting as the coordinator for the student-led new venture competition that will be on March 28th of 2014. So we have the students developing teams that grow into companies, and we lead them through the process of developing a business plan that then they will compete for during the new venture competition, where there's $65,000 in startup capital available.
That is excellent.
Oh yeah, it's
now,
great.
Students from which universities can participate?
Oh, it's primarily CMU, but we also have Michigan Tech University that is a part of our program.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. And then sitting next to you, we have Tony Fox. Now you are the Regional Director of the Mid-Michigan Small Business and Technology Development Center. Can you tell us a little bit about the MISBTDC, please?
Sure thing. We're a partner program of the Small Business Administration. Our program is actually a national program supported in Michigan on a regional basis, and so there's actually coverage in all 83 counties of the state. There are 11 different regional hosts. In the Mid-Michigan area, Mid-Michigan Community College is actually our host. So we're employees of the college. We also receive support from the Central Michigan University Research Corporation. Our region specifically serves an 11-county area. Primarily, we're working with companies, helping them access information, market research. We also provide trainings, but our real core is one-on-one counseling. And we do that at no direct cost to the companies because of the support of those different entities.
That's such a great service that you offer.
Thank you.
And so since you were just here of the Mid-Michigan region, and you said that there are several other branches across our state, our viewers range from northern Michigan to central and the Metro Detroit area as well. So would you mind listing off those different branches in the areas for our viewers?
Sure. In the Upper Peninsula, it's actually Michigan Works. In the Northwest area, it is the Northwest Michigan Council of Governments. In the Northeast area, it is the Michigan Works office up there, actually. Delta College host in the region to the direct east of us. Kettering is a host over in the Flint market. Grand Rapids is actually through Grand Valley State University, and they also serve as our statewide host. So there's some other headquarters administration that they provide and support. A lot of our market research actually goes through Grand Valley State University, and we use some of the grad students that they have on staff there to pull research. And then Lansing is hosted at Lansing Community College, and the southeast area is hosted at Eastern, and then Western in the southwest area.
Okay.
And then Washtenaw is also, Washtenaw Community College is the final one.
Okay, excellent. So we'll be able to answer a lot of your business-related and entrepreneurial questions tonight, and you'll be able to answer some of those, both Tony and Ragnar. So please give us a call at 1-800-727-9268. You can write us a question on our Facebook page, facebook.com/askthespecialists, or you can also send us a tweet to @WCMU_AskThe, or you can use the hashtag #AskThe. So I guess if we could just start off here with maybe describing what's the definition of a small business. What are those characteristics that you need to hit? Ragnar?
Yeah, so a small business is going to be the type of business where somebody is either personally taking on the risk to really follow an idea or a concept that they're passionate about. There could be different types of small businesses. Obviously, there's a business where you're using a service, or you're making a product, or even a farmer really is a great example of a small business person. So most all of us every day are using small business to get many of our activities done. From the time we go to the hardware store, most of those are small businesses. You know, you get your hair cut, that's a small example of a small business and that kind of thing. But the other thing that's exciting is that many of these can also be companies that are hiring other employees. And actually, many small businesses really account for the majority of the job creation in the United States today. Yeah.
Yeah, so we follow SBA's definition of small, and it's actually quite large. Typically, it's below 500 employees. So it could be, you know, some of the local mom and pop sort of operations. It could be some of the more significant employers in the rural parts of the state. It varies a little bit depending on industry, and then there's also, you know, micro enterprises within that are also very important to the local economies.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So when a small business is starting up, or if they've been around for a while and they're looking for some funding options, what are some of those options for businesses to turn to?
When a company's starting, it's much more challenging because they lack that track record and demonstrable success. So typically you're looking at the founders providing their own funding within the company, so you know, their own ownership and equity injection, friends, family, those sorts of sources. There are a variety of new things on the horizon in the space of crowdfunding, and some of the new rules are actually out there in a 90-day period right now being reviewed. The working rules come through the Securities and Exchange Commission because it will be regulated, but there will be a marketplace where companies can raise crowdfunding equity, and that's a new wrinkle. There are sites like Kickstarter and Indiegogo and the like, and those are really a donation for a future good or some sort of benefit, but it's not an equity stake in the company. And then the third leg of crowdsourcing of funding would be that's a debt instrument. So there are platforms that exist to allow companies to facilitate that as well. In some instances, there is commercial financing as well, more traditional bank financing available, but it really depends on the 5 C's of credit, looking at the cash flow, the collateral, a lot of the things that we help a company take a look at, so they don't just go in and get a no. They go in with the clear understanding of what the expectation is and what they're going to need to bring to the deal to make it financeable.
Well, and another area of funding is really the business plan competitions. There are several of these that are sponsored by the state of Michigan, and facilities, you know, GLAQ is an example out of Lansing. There's Accelerate Michigan out of Ann Arbor. There's one out of Lansing. And these are a good example of what we're doing with the new venture competition, but they're open to anybody. And you can get funding that is either what they would say equity leveraged or a complete cash ownership award of, you know, $10,000, $20,000. Some of the awards that are done, like I know at GLAQ had, were over $250,000, but they had an equity position in them too.
Okay.
So there's some interesting models out there for people wanting to start a business.
And that's really it. It's such a wide horizon and a lot of different vehicles out there that companies can come to us, sit down with one of our consultants, and help look at what might be most applicable for their situation.
Okay, great. Well, we have one viewer who is wondering if there is any way SBA, small business, can help me get a loan for my small construction business. Looks like the construction has $2 million in equipment.
So maybe I'll start off with just clearing up some misconceptions that sometimes exist about the SBA.
That'd be great.
First and foremost, the SBA doesn't provide grants for startup businesses. Really, the grants that are out there are specific to a very small percentage of companies. It's really not a traditional company. It's more of a technology-based company, which is also a segment we serve that's looking at new, innovative products, services, business to business perhaps, that's really rooted in hard science and new commercialization. So there are some grants. We were talking a little bit ahead of the show about, you know, some of the situations where that's applicable. In general, there's not. There's just really not for a traditional business. The SBA's role is really that of a guarantor. So a company will get financing from a bank, and the SBA will assume some of the risk if they participate in the program. There are a variety of programs depending on what type of assets are being financed. The USDA also provides some, and in our area that's a real important piece because the rural definition is quite broad, so there could be a guarantee program through the USDA. And then thirdly, the state of Michigan has guarantee programs as well that all, again, depend on the situation, but there are different ways that some of the risk can be mitigated for the lender and make it more worthwhile to participate.
Well, wouldn't you agree that the SBTDC also provides counseling? And, you know, not only am I the mentor in residence for the IBIE, the Institute of Entrepreneurship, but I also I'm part of a startup. And one thing you're always looking for is the ability to get free advice or low-cost advice on how to help your company business plan. And many times if you're trying to get a loan or if you're trying to raise capital with an angel investor or a venture capitalist, you really need to have a solid and compelling story. And anywhere you can go to get that help from somebody that has the experience of putting those plans together is really a big benefit. And I know your facility really does a nice job of that, as well as there's the CMURC that has the Right Choice program that people can get into, and we'll give them the opportunity to develop their plan and get some startup capital.
And I think that's one element of our services being at no cost. You know, we don't stand to gain financially from what the assistance we're providing. We really are doing it to help foster and create an environment where there's good job creation that then fuels the economy back in. That's that's where our program makes sense from a dollar return on the taxpayer's investment in the program. Having that unbiased opinion and having a professional source that has a lot of expertise and experience. The majority of our consultants, if not all, have firsthand business ownership experience. So they've been in the trenches, they can relate to the companies, and that's really what we see resonates well with the companies we're working with.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, and you mentioned briefly about a business plan. We had a question received via social media on our Twitter page. They're asking, what is a business plan and why do we need one?
That's a very good question.
It is. Everybody, the business plan has lots of different definitions. And, the way I like to start with a client is looking at who the audience is. So if there's a business plan needed to get financing in place, that's a specific type of plan. There are certain things that need to be articulated in that plan. If it's a plan just for the owner to help them map out what they're going to do and set that action plan into writing, that's very valuable because if you're reactionary and you're just thinking about things, there's sort of clouds floating around and you don't really have a definitive path to where you're going. So if you take off in the morning to grow your business, you might not know if you got there or not. And so that's important to have that roadmap.
Yeah, I totally agree. We spend a lot of time in the workshops with the student teams on developing their business plan. And one tool is the business model canvas. It's a very popular tool that's used, and it's not super complex to get started with. You can find it on the internet, so it's easy to find. But when you're actually starting a business, it's very easy to get distracted. It's either to get distracted by what customer you're serving or what product are you making, how are you capturing value with that product. And the business plan really creates a roadmap of what you think you're good at and why would customers be interested in it and how you're going to serve them. And it helps every time. I have a friend that started a travel company, and she really realized, she spent time with the TDC in Traverse City, and she realized that launching her business would have been a completely different experience if she didn't take that time to write that plan. Yeah.
And I think there's a lot to be said for making the mistakes in the model.
Yes.
And not in practice when your home is committed to a line of credit or to the financing and so on. And that's really where you have that opportunity. You can put things into paper, you can start to run some of the numbers and look at what the forecast looks like, instead of just waking up one day and realizing, this really doesn't make a lot of money, we're at best break even. We want to get ahead of those things. So in general, the components of a business plan are looking at the market elements, looking at the financial elements and the operations of how you're going to realize that market and convert them into sales.
And if I can add one last thing for me is that a lot of times you start a business, you have an idea that you think people will like. And the business plan really is there to help validate that before you spend a lot of money, because a lot of times you don't have a chance to do it a second time. You just don't have the money to do it a second time. So you got to give it your best shot on the first time. And the business plan really tries to help with minimizing that risk.
And staying focused.
And staying focused.
Okay.
Very good.
Excellent. Well, we have a few very specific business type questions from our viewers. One is from the Ludington area. Is there funding available for buying a universal barcode for our product? Are you familiar with that or know about it? Barcode. Is there funding available for buying a universal barcode for our product?
Universal barcode.
So if I'm understanding the question correctly, there are things that are more difficult to finance, and some of those are just cost of doing business. And so, you know, if it's not something, and that doesn't sound like it's tangible enough in my mind to have it be something that would really be fitting to, say, debt financing. There could be some equity injection where if you want to take on additional ownership, that there might be an opportunity there, or there just might be somebody you know that would lend you the money to do it. In general, though, something like that, I think you would want to take a more organic approach, if you can, and look at growing the business using some of the residual cash flow to set aside and then eventually make that purchase based on some of the dollars you have coming in and the dollars that exist after you've paid all your bills. And so taking some of the profit and redirecting it in is one way.
Well, and it goes back to the business plan. One concept that's always out there is how do you run lean? The idea is if you could rent it, you rent it versus buying it. And if you can borrow it, you borrow it instead of renting it. So if they're able to figure out a way, there's a lot of items out there beyond just the barcode device you're talking about, that if you go out on the internet or you go out to sources, you'll find where you can rent these devices or you can borrow them and figure out if they really make a difference to how you're developing your business. And many times that's another distraction, is people think they have to have everything set up, completely purchased and completely done perfect before they can test out their product or their service. And it really is important to really try to do that as simple and as cheap as possible.
And test out your market.
And test out your market. Always testing your market, yeah.
A caller from Elk Rapids is wondering about market research. What kind of market research is available through the colleges?
Well, so one thing that I'll offer out, there's a couple things. One, I'll offer that the new venture competition is a competition that can be student-led, but can have outside people available as mentors, and if they're willing to have the students be part of their company, that company can use them to help develop that market research. The other thing is the entrepreneur program has a consultant section in it where the students can be consultants to a business, and they can get basically, again, you're running lean, you basically get free consulting on your marketing plan.
Is that almost an internship type of thing?
And well, that's actually a third one. Is that if you have an opportunity, if you are willing to work with the university, there's also an internship opportunities available that you can work with the Entrepreneur Institute. Yeah, so there's three real good and relatively low-cost approaches to getting some marketing data. Yeah.
Right, and very efficient too.
And so some of the specific resources really fall into two categories. One, primary research was that exploration using something like a business model canvas to go out and explore and collect feedback from your clients or potential clients. Also, there is secondary information. There's a lot of that out there.
Agreed.
A lot of the universities, CMU included, the Park Library is a public library. So these are resources available to the greater public. They're available through our entity as well, and we have some that are actually fee-based databases that we have licensure in place to be able to work with companies. We're talking about everything from high-level industry outlooks and overviews to very granular data on consumption within a specific site ring map, meaning 1, 3, and 5 mile concentric circles from a business's location. So it can really run the full spectrum, and what our role is to help companies get not only access to that, but understand how to implement that into their plan and use that information to make better, more competitively informed decisions in how they're moving their business forward. So we can kind of save time that way. A lot of these resources are also available through the Michigan Electronic Library. So mel.org has a wide variety of databases that are accessible to Michigan residents.
Okay, great. Now, there are several different ways that you can get our questions to us this evening. One is calling our 1-800 number. You can also go on our Facebook page, facebook.com/askthespecialist, or you can send us a tweet, like one of our viewers just did, asking a little bit more about what Michigan has to offer. Are there any incentives in Michigan that encourage people to start up a business? Besides that website of assisting that you just mentioned?
I think there's a wide array of support, and really that's somewhat of a challenge at times too, to navigate that. And there really are everything from incubators and accelerators like our very own
Yes.
Central Michigan University Research Corporation, tapping into some of the university student consulting projects that Ragnar was referring to the Michigan Economic Development Corporation has a variety of programs ranging from those financing guarantee programs I mentioned to some of the more early stage commercialization funds like the pre-seed fund, which I don't know if we mentioned you may have.
No, I didn't, but that's a good one.
And they also support some of the business plan competitions. I mean, there's really that ecosystem of different elements that I think create a very good opportunity for somebody that's looking to start a business in Michigan right now.
Yeah. Michigan actually has a very nice network of what they call incubators. And as you're saying, we have the incubator housed right here at the CMURC that's for our region, but they're out through the entire state. And probably doing a search on michigan.gov or whatever would probably give you your local one. But you got options like the Right Choice program through the CMURC that gives you a 3-phase approach to how to build your business plan and how to develop funding options and really test the market. You've got the Spark work that's done down in the southeast area as far as equity positions, and you've got the competitions. Those are really amazing funding opportunities when you think about the different choices. But it all comes back to having a compelling story that really can be compelling to everybody,
And so it's the competitions too, I think, and I think you'd agree with this. It's not only the funds that you can win, the award money, but it's really the connections that you make and that the knowledge you gain from some of the mentors. They're really a good solid core of mentors throughout the state too. So people who have been there, done that, that are helping the next generation, if you will, chart those waters.
Yeah, for instance, there's a very extensive network of angel investors actually in the mid-Michigan area right here. And not only are they interested in investing in startup businesses, but they also, because they all are experienced business and technologists, would help advise the company as they go through it too. So there's a lot of resources.
Okay, great. Now, we have a caller from Kalkaska, and they ask, if a person owns a small business and doesn't have employees, but rather subcontracts, are you responsible for any employees the subcontractor hires, or are they?
No, you wouldn't be, because they're an independent company of yours. And there are some pretty specific rules regarding whether somebody's an employer or an independent contractor. It's important that the company, the prime contractor in that situation, is really familiar with those to make sure that they are adhering to those rules. But if it's an employee of the subcontractor, there shouldn't be.
I agree, yeah.
Okay. And then another question we received via social media, how do I determine wages? Now, is that something that is very business, different industry specific, or the size of their business, or how might they determine their wage?
I think it's going to be industry specific, and I think it's going to be part of what you think your business culture is.
Okay.
Because if you're looking at people that are going to do repetitive tasks or doing something that you feel that there's a large labor pool, you'll probably be, and has a fairly low skill level, you'll probably say, well, I'm going to look at the comparable market and see what they're paying. And I'm sure there's ways you can go out and see that. But the other side of it is, if you're looking for employees that are going to have specific skills and you're going to want employee retention, there's going to be wage, and there's that you're going to need to be competitive so that they're not only wanting to stay there and provide long-term benefit to the company, but you also want them to be incentivized to be part of the success of the company.
Yeah, I would agree. Wage is one part of it, but you can look at compensation as a whole, and there could be other elements such as flexibility or benefits that could be just as appealing as a wage to some. And really, it's a combination of what you can afford, what the market will bear in terms of what you can pay, and really how competitive are you with your workforce? Because if you're paying low wages and people are turning through, there's a cost to training them and getting them up to speed, and so it's a combination of things.
Okay. Okay, excellent, thank you. Now we do have some viewers who are interested in contacting you both directly. Can you please give us some information about how our viewers can contact your organization specifically, please?
Sure. So in my case, I'm in 164 Grand, and so it would be Isabella Bank Institute for Entrepreneurship. You could contact the office there and be happy to take your questions. I also have my email address at CMU is avery1rr@cmich.edu. So feel free to take an email.
Okay, great, thank you. And Tony?
Likely the best way to get a hold of our office would be through our website, and that way, depending on where the viewer is at, they'll be connected to their local resource. The website is michigansmallbusinesssuccess.org.
Okay, michigansmallbusinesssuccess.org.
Correct.
Okay, excellent. Well, I guess, and we only have a very quick moment here. How much money does it take to start up a small business, very briefly?
That's a great question. There's a lot of answers, though.
Yeah.
There, sure.
Yeah.
It depends on how you approach your business. Most small businesses are ideally going to want to be able to start up with the minimum amount of cash flow as possible. If you're able to self-fund, in other words, self-funding means if you're able to use your own savings or to do the work to get to the next level, that's ideal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you so much. I'm afraid that we have run out of time, but thank you for tuning in to Ask the Small Business Specialist tonight. We'd like to thank Ragnar Avery and Tony Fox for being with us. We hope that you can visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/askthespecialist tomorrow for some of your questions that we weren't able to answer this evening. We'll have some answers for you there. We hope you can also join us next week as we ask the Health Awareness Specialist. I'm Courtney Jerome. Thanks for watching, and good night.